4 continents, 4 legends, 4 stories whispered across generations. From haunted homes in Europe, to vengeful spirits in Asia, to a ghostly mother who walks the rivers of the Americas. Tonight, we bring you 4 terrifying stories from around the world. In the town of Bargoed, South Wales, there once stood a house that looked no different from the others along Cardiff Road. It was called Gladstone Villa, named after the former Prime Minister William Gladstone. To strangers passing by, it appeared modest and unremarkable, a solid stone house, typical of the area. Yet those who stepped inside soon discovered its ordinary appearance was a mask. Behind that facade lay one of the most unsettling and enduring haunting stories in Welsh history, a tale whispered with unease in local pubs and remembered in hushed tones by those who lived nearby. The Dexter family moved into Gladstone Villa in 1969. Andrew was only a baby when his mother, Carolyn, and his grandparents, Bill and Rita, settled into what they believed would be a safe and welcoming home. The house had all the promise of stability, but within days it revealed a darker nature. Almost immediately, subtle disturbances suggested that something unseen claimed the villa as its own. At first, these happenings were easy to dismiss. The lights would flicker unexpectedly, though the wiring had been checked and no faults were found. Electrical cables shifted as if pulled by an invisible hand. At night, deliberate footsteps echoed across the upstairs bedroom, steady and unmistakable. They always came from the same place, the main bedroom, even when it was empty. Bill was the first to react. He would suddenly pause, point toward a corner, and declare, "He's here." His family felt only the heavy stillness of the air, but Bill was convinced someone stood among them. The disturbances escalated swiftly. A glass bottle once launched itself across the room, shattering against the wall inches from Bill. Another night, Andrew's father awoke to a chilling sight, an ironing board inexplicably resting on top of him as he slept. No one could explain how it had moved. The attic became a particular focus of terror. Though sealed tight, the family heard the distinct crash of something leaping down from it onto the landing. The thud was so real it shook the walls, but when they forced the hatch open and searched, they found only dust and silence. Terrified yet strangely resigned, the family gave their unseen housemate a name, Johnny. But Johnny was no harmless prankster. Carolyn, Andrew's mother, had a vision that left her shaken for life. She claimed to see a tall, hooded figure in a brown monk's habit standing silently in the doorway. The figure's face remained hidden beneath the hood, but its stillness was oppressive, radiating a heavy presence. Others in the house reported hearing Gregorian chanting, low and haunting, as though a distant choir sang behind closed doors. Perhaps most chilling were the cries of a baby, drifting through the rooms with heart-wrenching clarity. Caroline often rushed to Andrew's crib, only to find her son sleeping peacefully, untouched by the sounds that tormented the others. As months turned into years, the family's fear deepened. Rita and Carolyn refused to sleep upstairs, dragging bedding into the living room and making the downstairs their refuge. Even young Andrew, though barely old enough to understand, sensed the dread that clung to the house. Bill alone clung to stubborn denial. He claimed the spirit meant them no harm, but even he admitted the power of what haunted them could not be ignored. Seeking relief, the family reached out for help. The police were called, and though officers reluctantly searched the attic, they emerged pale and uneasy, unwilling to linger. Later, a medium named John Matthews was invited. He announced that the house held an earthbound spirit with unfinished business, something tethering it to Gladstone Villa. His warning brought no comfort. Desperate, they turned to the church. Reverend Graham Jones blessed the house, and for a time the activity lessened. Hope briefly returned. But soon the disturbances came back with greater force, as though the spirit resented the attempt to drive it away. The haunting dragged on nearly a decade. By the late 1970s, The Dexters were exhausted. In the summer of 1978, as they prepared to leave, the activity reached its terrifying peak. On their final night, the house came alive with fury. The doorknob rattled violently. Boxes already packed for moving were thrown across the hall, and unseen hands seemed to rearrange their belongings. Bill, for the first time, even he admitted that they were in the grip of something far beyond reason. Years later, Andrew, now grown, began researching the villa's past. His discoveries gave chilling context to what they had endured. In 1924, a baby named Elvin Kimiet had died in the house, perhaps explaining the phantom cries that echoed through its rooms. The monk-like apparition, he learned, might have been connected to a monastery that once stood nearby in the 16th century, or to a hidden priest's refuge that had been sealed across the road during the turbulent years of religious persecution. Each piece of history added weight to the belief that Gladstone Villa was not merely haunted, but a crossroads of restless spirits, bound to centuries of loss. Gladstone Villa eventually ceased to exist as a family home. It was converted into a hotel, and later into a care home, but the stories never stopped. Guests and staff spoke of lights flickering without cause, of figures in white moving silently through corridors, and most disturbingly, of a baby crying in the dead of night. No amount of renovation seemed able to erase the mark left upon the place. Today, the legend of Gladstone Villa endures as one of the most chilling hauntings in South Wales. For the Dexter family, it was nearly a decade of fear, sleepless nights, and encounters that defied explanation. For the community, it remains a cautionary tale of a house where past and present collided. A story of a monk shrouded in shadow, a child whose cries echoed long after death, and an entity they came to call Johnny, a spirit that lingered long after the family fled, ensuring Gladstone Villa would never be forgotten. That was the chilling mystery of Gladstone Villa in Wales. But across the seas, in Japan, another spirit's curse took root. The story of Oiwa, a woman wronged, whose rage could not be buried. Every culture has its ghost legends, stories whispered by firelight, warnings passed down through generations. But in Japan, one legend rises above them all, a story so cursed, so deeply feared, that even now, nearly 2 centuries later, actors still tremble before performing it. This is the legend of Yotsuya Kaidan, the tragic fate of Oiwa, the woman who became Japan's most famous ghost. It is the summer of 1825. Edo, what we now call Tokyo, is alive with color and life. The bustling streets echo with the sounds of merchants, the aroma of street food, the laughter of children running through alleys. But above all, the beating heart of the city is Kabuki Theater. The stage is where samurai clash, lovers defy fate, and legends are born. On one fateful night, a new play takes the stage at the Nakamuraza Theater. The playwright, Tsuruya Namboku IV, unveils his latest work, Yotsuya Kaidan, the ghost story of Yotsuya. Audiences expect sword fights, melodrama, maybe even humor. What they receive instead is terror, unlike anything they had ever seen. The story follows a ronin, a masterless samurai named Tamiya Iman. Once bound by honor, he now slips deeper into greed, betrayal, and lust. His choices drag him down a path so dark that it will not only destroy him, but awaken a vengeance that will echo through eternity. At the center of this tragedy is Oiwa. Gentle, loyal, and devoted, she is Amon's wife, faithful to him even when he proves unworthy of her love. But their bond begins in blood. Oiwa's father, suspicious of Amon's intentions, opposes their union. In secret, Amon murders him, plunging his blade into the man who only sought to protect his daughter. With chilling calm, he swears to Oiwa that he will avenge her father's death, hiding the truth that he himself is the killer. For a time, Amon's mask holds. He plays the role of husband, but inside him grows a hunger for wealth and power. Soon, another woman enters his life, the granddaughter of a wealthy nobleman. If Iman can marry her, he will gain riches, lands, and status. But there is one obstacle in his way: Oiwa, the loyal wife who loves him too deeply to ever suspect his betrayal. Eamon devises a plan. Oiwa is given a gift face cream, said to restore beauty and youth. She accepts it with trust, unaware it is poisoned. At first, nothing seems wrong. But slowly, her body betrays her. Her skin burns as though set aflame. Her face swells grotesquely, her features twisting beyond recognition. One eye bulges and droops. Her hair falls in clumps to the floor, strands clinging to her trembling hands. She lifts a mirror and beholds the nightmare of what she has become. The woman she once was, kind, radiant, full of life, is gone. In her place is a figure of horror, deformed by the treachery of the man she devoted her life to. Heartbroken, humiliated, and driven to despair, she takes up a blade. In agony and delirium, she stumbles, collapses, and dies, but not before uttering words that will outlast her final breath. A curse upon Eamon. The curse of a betrayed woman. The curse of an Onryu, a spirit of vengeance. Death does not silence Oiwa. It frees her. She rises from the grave, clad in the white burial kimono of the dead. Her hair, long and black, hangs damp as if she has just crawled from the earth itself. Her one ruined eye glares with eternal rage, her lips pulled into a grotesque sneer. She is no longer the woman Eamon knew. She is vengeance incarnate, and she will not let him rest. Everywhere Eamon turns, he sees her. Her reflection shimmers in paper lanterns. Her face stares from the surface of mirrors. Strangers on the street seem to wear her features, if only for a moment. Each time he tries to run, she is there, watching, waiting. His fear twists into madness. He lashes out, murdering those around him in blind terror. Convinced they are Oiwa returned to claim him. His sanity splinters, his world collapses. The curse consumes him. And in 1825, as the curtain fell on Yotsuya Kaidan, audiences sat frozen. They had expected entertainment, but instead they were confronted with nightmare. The play was more than a performance. It was an invocation of dread. But the story did not remain confined to the stage. Oiwa's image, her pale face, her drooping eye, her long, stringy black hair, etched itself into Japan's collective imagination. She became the blueprint for terror itself. Generations later, her influence can be seen in every shadowy figure of Japanese horror. Sadako from The Ring, Kayako from Ju-on, The Grudge. All descend from Oiwa's curse. Yet the legend is not merely fiction. In Tokyo's Yotsuya district stands a small shrine dedicated to Oiwa. Locals say she once prayed here in life. Today, it is a place of reverence and fear. Actors, filmmakers, and playwrights who dare to retell Yotsuya Kaidan come to this shrine. They light incense, bow deeply, and whisper prayers for Oiwa's blessing. For they know what happens to those who neglect her. Strange accidents, mysterious illnesses, sudden deaths. Misfortune stalks those who fail to honor the spirit they are invoking. To this day, no serious production of Yotsuya Kaidan dares ignore her shrine. Betrayal, poison, vengeance. These are the threads that weave the tale of Oiwa. Nearly 200 years have passed since her story first terrified an Edo audience. Yet her curse still lingers, etched into stage, film, and memory. So the next time you pass a mirror in a darkened room, look closely. If you see a pale face staring back, one eye sunken, hair draped across her cheek, do not blink. Do not look away, because Oiwa's curse may not have ended in the theater. It may have found you. Japan's ghost of betrayal still terrifies to this day. Yet far south, in the villages of India, people faced a different terror. A witch who knocks at your door in the dead of night. They say, in the villages of South India, a witch walks at night. She does not come with a storm, or with thunder, or with fire. She comes quietly. Some say she drifts like smoke, a shadow sliding between the trees, her presence colder than the wind. Others whisper that she walks like any other woman, her sari brushing against the dust, her hair loose and tangled, hiding a face you never want to see. Always, it begins the same way. She knocks on doors. First, the sound is soft, like a neighbor calling, like a friend who has arrived late in the evening. But if you do not answer, the knocking grows louder, more urgent, more insistent, until the sound rattles in your bones. And then comes the voice. She does not speak in her own tone, No, the witch is clever. She speaks in the voice of someone you love. A mother, a father, a child, a dear friend, whoever you trust the most, whoever you would never refuse. You hear them on the other side of the door, calling softly, begging you to let them in. And if you make the mistake of opening that door, the night swallows you whole. No one has ever come back. For years, people lived in terror of her. Stories spread from village to village of families who vanished overnight, of children who opened the door when their parents were away, of husbands who thought their wives were returning home. Whole communities would stay awake until dawn, whispering prayers, clutching lamps, too afraid to close their eyes. Every knock in the dark was a death sentence waiting to be answered. But then they found her weakness. Not fire, not iron, not the chanting of holy men. Just two simple words, na laba. In Kannada, it means, come tomorrow. The discovery was an accident, some say. A drunken man, too tired to rise and too afraid to open the door, shouted it in frustration. Na laba, come tomorrow. And to his amazement, the knocking stopped. The footsteps faded. When morning came, he was alive. Word spread like wildfire. Soon, every family painted or carved those words onto their doors, their gates, their walls. And it worked. Night after night, the witch would arrive. She would knock. She would call. She would whisper in voices that could break the strongest heart. But every time, she saw the words. Na laba, come tomorrow. And she obeyed. She left. The next night, she came again. Again, she read the words. Again, she left. Over and over, for weeks, months, years. A cycle without end. The people began to believe they had beaten her, that their simple trick was enough to bind her forever. Villages once frozen in fear began to breathe again. Doors opened during the day. Festivals returned. Children played in the streets. Yet the writing never disappeared. Even as walls crumbled and paint faded, the words were always replaced, always repainted, always carved anew. Because no one truly believed she was gone. Even today, if you wander through forgotten alleys or pass through old villages in Karnataka, you may still see the words faded, scratched, nearly erased by time. Na le ba, come tomorrow. Sometimes written in bright paint, sometimes in chalk, sometimes nothing more than a desperate scrawl across rotting wood. Always waiting, always warning. But legends are never so simple. Some say the witch is not bound by the words, only amused by them. That she could step inside any night she chose, but the game is sweeter this way, watching people cling to their fragile sense of safety. Others whisper that each time she leaves, she grows hungrier, that every tomorrow makes her stronger, that the day she finally decides not to obey, her hunger will devour an entire village in a single night. There are darker versions too, stories of people who vanished even though the words were written on their walls. A family whose doors were covered in na le ba from roof to floor, yet their house was found empty by sunrise. No struggle, no broken locks, just silence as if they had stepped out of this world and into hers. Some villagers believe that if you hear her knock 3 times and survive, it is only because she has marked you. That from then on, wherever you go, she will follow. From city streets to lonely fields, the sound of her knuckles on the door will haunt you. And one night, no matter how many times you write the words, she will finally be done waiting. And perhaps that is the truest terror of Na Li Ba. It is not a weapon, not a cure, not salvation. It is only a delay, a way to push death into the shadows of tomorrow. But tomorrow always comes. So remember this. If you ever find yourself in the quiet of a South Indian village and you hear a knock at night, do not answer. Do not speak. Do not let your heart be fooled by the voices you love. Just look to the door, look to the wall, and hope the words are still there, clear and unbroken. Na Le Ba, come tomorrow. Because one night, after centuries of waiting, she may grow tired of the game. She may decide the waiting is over. And when she does, no door, no prayer, no word will save you. The whispers of Na Le Ba still linger in old streets and fading paint. But on the other side of the world, in Mexico, another woman roams the night. Her name is spoken with fear by every child. She is La Llorona, the weeping woman. They say if you linger by the water after midnight, you'll hear her first. A thin, broken cry drifting over the river, as faint and haunting as mist. Some swear it rises with the fog, curling through the reeds, slipping into every open window. Others claim it comes suddenly, splitting the silence like a blade, sending even the bravest souls running for shelter. From the canals of old Mexico to the lonely creeks of the frontier, travelers have passed down the same story for centuries. A woman in white, gliding along the banks, searching for something she can never find. Some called her a warning, others a curse, and most would not even whisper her name once the sun had set. But tonight we will. La Llorona, the weeping woman. Her story is sewn into centuries of campfire stories and midnight warnings. Mothers hushed restless children with it, and elders leaned close to whisper her fate. Her voice, they said, carried one meaning only. Don't follow the water, and don't look back. Was she born from grief? A ghost bound to the moonlit rivers she cannot leave? Her tale flows through time, like the rivers she haunts, reshaping but never vanishing. Stay close to the fire. Keep your eyes fixed on the shore, because once you hear her cry, some say it never leaves you. Long ago, there lived a woman of astonishing beauty. Her eyes held storms and secrets. Her voice moved hearts like music, and her smile could silence a room. Men spoke of her as though she were a dream brought to life. But beauty is no shield, it is a weight, one that drew envy, desire, and danger. In the end, it led her to ruin. She gave her heart to a man of wealth, a man who promised her the world. He gave her children, but not his loyalty. He gave her hope, but not his truth. As nights grew colder and whispers sharper, she watched the man she loved drift farther away, until at last he rode off with another woman at his side. Her grief grew heavy. Her sorrow turned black. And on one fateful night, standing at the river's edge, she clutched her children in her arms. Her tears blurred the stars above. Her sobs shook the reeds around her. In that storm of despair or rage, she lowered them into the water. Their cries rose against the night, high and piercing, until the river swallowed them whole. When she realized what she had done, she screamed. She clawed at the water until her nails broke. She begged for mercy, for one last chance. But the river kept its silence. "Oh, my children," she cried. Her wail ripped through the valley, tearing the night apart. Some said the mountains themselves echoed her cry, carrying it from village to village. When dawn came, no one saw her again. Some claimed she drowned herself, chasing their spirits into the current. Others whispered that the river itself took her as its bride, binding her to its depths forever. But death did not silence her. She was denied rest. She was condemned to wander. Her ghost rose in the white robe of death, hair streaming black and dripping like the river itself. Her eyes, dark and endless, searched for the children she could never hold again. Her cry was no longer sorrow, but warning. A curse, and so she roams still. Because if La Llorona finds you near the water, she may mistake you for one of her own. Her story did not simply appear, grew from centuries of fear. Some trace her tale to colonial Mexico, when priests warned children not to stray into dangerous canals. To them, La Llorona was both punishment and parable, a figure of sin and consequence. But others trace her roots back to the Aztecs. They tell of Cihuacotl, the serpent woman, who walked the streets of Tenochtitlan at night, weeping for her lost children. Her cries, it was said, foretold the empire's fall to the Spaniards. When the conquest came, the goddess became the ghost. The prophecy became the curse, and her voice did not stop there. By the 1800s, her story had crossed deserts and borders. Families in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona passed it on. Around campfires, they told their children, "Don't play near the river after dark. Don't answer if you hear her cry. Because the lady in white waits by the banks, ready to take you." She was grief. She was punishment. She was the river's warning. And still, even now, she has not gone silent. In towns along the Rio Grande, families whisper of nights when her wail drifts through the dark. A cry so sharp, so human, it freezes the blood. So real that it seems she must be standing just outside the door. Yet when the door is opened, there is nothing, only the dark water moving slowly past. Drivers speak of her too. A pale woman in white, standing alone at the roadside, her veil trailing like mist in the wind. Those who stop say she vanishes the moment they draw near. Those who pass her by still hear her sobbing in the rearview mirror, following them long after the road has emptied. In one story, a boy was pulled from a river, coughing and soaked but alive. He swore a woman had been holding his hand beneath the water. His mother, watching from the bank, said no one else was there. And so the stories continue. Whispers of footsteps by the shore, cries carried on the current, a presence in the reeds. And in the silence of the night, when the wind dies and the water darkens, many still swear they have heard her voice. La Llorona is more than a ghost story. She is grief made eternal, a mother's sorrow turned into curse, a warning stitched into centuries of memory. She has haunted the canals of Mexico, the villages of the frontier, and the lonely highways of today. She endures because she is everywhere water flows, everywhere grief lingers, everywhere someone has lost what cannot be returned. So if you ever find yourself walking alone at night, and the river runs dark at your side, listen closely. If the air grows colder, if the world falls silent, if you hear a cry that does not belong to the wind, don't follow, don't answer, because she may already be calling for you. 4 stories, 3 continents, 1 truth: the dead never rest, and the living are never safe. Which of these legends haunts you the most? Tell us in the comments. And if you dare, subscribe for more nightmares from around the world.